This video is on the Super Bowl, the residual ritual of the Super Bowl decoded. Okay, some of this information you may have heard, some you may not have heard. Okay, so I do have some new findings here on this. I think they have to be said, right? Um, Leave no stones unturned, they say. So we're going to unturn those stones. Okay, I believe, just to throw it out there from the beginning, I believe this is a vagus nerve ritual and a Revelation 12 sign ritual. Above, below, what happens above, below, they say, right? That's the occult. And whatever happens on the outside happens on the inside. And I believe they utilize the inside to maybe even dictate the outside, or vice versa. They connect these things. And what I mean by the inside, I mean anatomically speaking. Um, on this channel, we've talked about the vagus nerve since day one. Uh, and I'll go over it again, of course. Um, and just bear with me. We're gonna keep. I'll touch on all those as we go along. Alrighty. Okay, so this is the Revelation 12 sign, right? This is found in cinema all the time. This symbol right here. Um, it's found in Idiocracy. It's found in 9 out of 10 movies that you watch. The movie decodes that I've done, I've pointed them out. It's always there. Uh, Theologians believe that this happened in 2017. There's other theologians that believe it just happened last year, 2023, and I believe they're both right. One's for the Jews, one's for the Gentiles, and I believe they also represent 7 good years, 7 bad years, as we've talked about on this channel before. Um, and I believe the occult knows all about this symbol and what it means, right? We can trace this symbol all the way back to the Revelation 12. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And this symbol also correlates to Revelation 9:11. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. Apollo, right? Apollo and his arrows. Okay? So we know the KC is an arrow, right? It's an arrowhead. Some people say it's a spear tip. I think they're both right. But we know for a fact it's an arrowhead. And we've talked about the arrowhead and Apollo on this channel many times, and referencing his arrows, his toxin. Um, Other channels have mentioned this as well. This is not new information, and it's not even just my information, it's the community's. But it's real, it's there. We've decoded it. We dissected this whole meaning of Apollo and his arrows last year. And um, if that's confusing anybody, just put it in the comments, and I'll do a whole breakdown on Apollo and the symbolism behind the arrows. But we also have the KC, right? What does the KC sound like? KC is the AC, right? Doesn't mean, your friend from down the street, KC, is the AC. Just means that they utilize the KC as the AC. It's just code for it. Just another way of saying the AC, just really slick. And then the AC is always Apollo is connected to the arrows. Correct? So this is the symbolism they utilized in their games and their programming, right? This is what they do. Okay. And that may be even connected to, you know, to the old 47 here, who's possibly coming up soon to run things, right? The old Prez right here. Possibly. Or it can just be a random number. And it's no coincidence. Look at 11, 6, and 0, which is 9/11 backwards or upside down. Um, so that is the Revelation 12, and it's the vagus nerve. Let me explain this too. So we have 12 cranial nerves. You have your inner Christ, your in your inferior brain or rear brain, as they say. Um, there's 12 cranial nerves in the brain. So we have the biblical story written within us. And right here, these 12 cranial nerves are equated to the 12 apostles. The vagus nerve is the only nerve that actually leaves the body, descending down into the body. So remember, the head always represents heaven and Christ. The body represents the earth and us, the people. It's the only nerve, and it's even located on the thigh, just like in Revelation it says that Christ has a name written on his thigh that nobody knows, right? And then you even see like a horse figure, like a white horse that he's riding. Remember, there's the good, bright white horse rider, and then there's the bad one in Revelation. Okay, so you have these cranial nerves that come out of the body. The vagus nerves are important because they go into every aspect, every major organ of the body. Okay, so there's a lot of truthers out there believing, which I've done videos on, and provided like evidence stating the fact that there are scientists out here trying to hack this nerve because of the vital importance of it, believing that if they can hack this nerve, they can heal these areas of the body or whatever. Um, so it's a vital nerve that they symbolize, right? And it's called the vagus nerve, like Las Vegas. You get it? So you have the Revelation 12 sign that looks like what? Nevada. So they also utilize these symbols as code for these. So they'll utilize Nevada as the Revelation 12 sign. In cinema, they do it all the time. And they'll utilize Vegas, Las Vegas, for the vagus nerve. It's just coded language. Las Vegas, there's other levels to breaking down or dissecting Las Vegas. Right? Las Vegas is the brightest city on the planet, and that's equated to like electricity, right? And we know that Zeus and Apollo are related, and they're basically the same character, and they're both connected to electricity and you know all that stuff. It's the same symbol, different name. Um, I know that Nevada has, I think, one of the largest, if not the largest, lithium deposit mines in America. Um, Casey over there on Enter the Stars did a great decode on that, on the lithium mines. Brought it to my attention. I'm even from there. I didn't even know all that stuff was going down. I don't live there anymore, of course. Um, but I thought it was monumental because it reminded me of the lithium bunny rabbit, right? And we know that the rabbit, this character right here, is referred to as the rabbit. Once we don't have Christ, it becomes the rabbit. It even looks like a little Donnie Darko rabbit. But it's also the inferior brain. It's a visual representation of Christ within us. But it all breaks down. The whole rabbit breaks down to secular holidays versus um, God's feast days. So the monumental the marker of the secular holidays comes down to Passover, right? Secular holidays is Easter and how they worship the Easter bunny and the fertility goddess aspect of all that stuff. And it basically breaks down to godlessness, rabbit or the rabbi, right? The rabbi is the master, is the teacher. There's only one teacher, one master, and that's our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But that's a whole nother teaching. I don't want to get you caught up on all that. Okay? So those are some other elements of the symbolism behind the SF and the KC. So the KC is the AC, and those are his poison tips. And then the San Francisco is the 49, right? A 49 um, is a Shemitah. 7 times 7 years, 49 years. Then the Yovel is the 50th year, the Day of Atonement. Okay? So it also represents like 13 and rebellion and all that stuff. And Las Vegas is the home of the running rebels. You have all this antichrist, um, you know, aura around Vegas, of course, Sin City, etc. But in this particular game, I believe, and I knew it from the beginning, that Kansas City was going to win. Um, I didn't want to blast on here because you never know, we could be wrong. But I just had a feeling this was the Antichrist ritual, just like in every single movie that we see. It's always about it's always about the poison arrows and the rider on the horse, right, coming down the stairway and yada yada yada. So the San Francisco, I considered that as the Shemitah, the sevens, right? On other levels, it represents rebellion, of course, and then 49ers were pioneers, right? Looking for money. There's a whole source around money of all this, whether it be the Super Bowl or whether it be making money off the poison tips over here. And for our experienced viewers, what I'm saying about poison tips in the AC, what that breaks down to is, the toxin, um, the vodka is what I'm referring to. There's the vodka ritual in every single movie that we watch, that we break down, that we decode. And there's almost like no need to decode movie after movie. It all comes down to the arrival of the AC, right? And his poison, toxin, arrows. It's the same Revelation 9 through 11, Revelation 12 sign explanation, right? It's every every movie breaks down to Revelation 9 through 11 and Revelation 12. And to sum it all up, it's the arrival of the Antichrist, delivering his poisonous arrows, right? And Apollo is the bringer of the disease and the cure. And for people to think that this whole thing that just passed us about the whole vodka, why is it in every symbol? I mean, every movie. Why is it in the media? Why is it in sports games? Why is it in everything? This thing was monumental that people just don't realize. It was more than just a moderate pandemic out there. That's the big cover. That's the big lie, because the severity and the repercussions of the vodka and the V are monumental, detrimental, and we'll get into more of that towards the end of this. But you got to keep on flying through this. I'll show you the importance of all this and the war of principalities that's going on, probably each and every one of us, that nobody talks about. All right, so we'll go back to the Raider Stadium, right? Raiders means one who invades and takes. Wow. Okay, pardon this real quick. People didn't realize, or I haven't heard anybody talk about this or make this connection. When this whole ritual, Vegas Nerve Revelation 12 sign the arrival of the Antichrist football game was going on, this was currently happening or happened the same day of, right? I thought it was important because things that happen on the same day usually have a connection. I know there was a mass shooting too, or not a mass shooting, but some shooting going on with the whole Chiefs thing, and but I people have already covered that, but nobody covered this. Police identified Genesee Moreno as shooter at Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church. What we know. This happened on 2/11/24, the same day as the Super Bowl. I find that no coincidence. I think they're directly connected, and I'll show you the symbolism found in this. Okay, so 211 is 22, right? 2 times 11 is 22. And we know alphanumerically 22 is V. Why do you think the Super Bowl was held on 211? The V. And I believe that's no coincidence. I think it's a V ritual connected definitely to the Revelation 9/11 and Revelation 12. Completely, 100%. Just off the date alone. And then, of course, 24, right? 24 is what? V. I believe 24 in the Hebrew alphabet, 24 is the X. But that could be a stretch. Um, yeah. Anyway, so there was a shooting in Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church, and I'll read some of this article so you get an idea what's going on. Texas police on Monday identified the alleged shooter killed by police at Joel Osteen's megachurch as 36-year-old Genesee Moreno. She's 36, like three sixes, 666, and said a 7-year-old boy injured in the shooting is Moreno's biological son. At approximately 1:53 Sunday, Moreno, carrying an AR-15 rifle, pushed past the security guard and walked into a hallway at Lakewood Church with the boy, the Houston Police Department said during a Monday news conference. Okay, 153 means in Strong's, it means to dishonor or make ashamed. Okay. Over the next 12 minutes, Moreno opened fire in the hallway, exchanged gunfire with two off duty officers who were providing security at the church, and was fatally injured, said Houston Police Department Commander Chris Hasig. Multiple rounds were fired, said Houston's police chief Troy Finner. The boy was injured by a single shot to the head, police said, adding, they do not yet know who fired the shot that hit the boy. Moreno was confirmed dead at 2:07 p.m., Hasek said. The boy was taken to Texas Children's Hospital, where he was in critical condition. We need not to do. For, we need to do for him what we need to do for him is pray. Finner said. A 57-year-old who was shot in the leg was released from the hospital. Police said. So the reason why they're really specific on the times 2:07, which is it's really weird because there's a lot of 2:07s or sevens and twos connected to this Lakewood Church, and I'll show you in a second. Because if you dissect all the names and you add them together, they tell you a story of what's going on. And I did a medium moderate decode on this, not too in depth, for the sake of time. You get the idea, or you will. So pay attention to the two and the sevens. It's not a huge deal. It's a common theme with this. The AR-15 Moreno carried had a sticker reading Palestine on the buttstock. He said Marino, who wore a trench coat and a backpack, also carried a 22. So there's your 22, right? And then you have your Palestine caliber rifle. Police believe Moreno legally purchased the AR-15 in December. Authorities have not released a motive for the shooting. Hasig said Marino had a mental health history. And that's very important because that's exactly where I'm going with this decode. And the symptoms and um, the war of principalities, what I was referring to earlier, of the residual aftermath of the V, right? Documented by the Department of Family members and added that they were uncovered anti Semitic writings. So we have a Hebrew Jewish God thing going on right here, linked to Moreno. Authorities also learned that that a family dispute between Moreno, an ex-husband, and some members of his family who police said are Jewish. So we have a definite Jewish connection here. I think this is very important. This is not just a random mass shooting. This is directly connected to God, right? It's obvious. It's at a church. You have your Jewish connections. You have your anti-Semitic connections. You have your Palestine. All these things that are coming to a head overseas right now, even over here in a weird way, obviously. Here's what we know so far about the incident. Who is Genesee Moreno? Moreno used other aliases, including Jeffrey Escalante, he said. Moreno has arrests dating back to 2005, according to Texas Department of Public Safety. Um, Moreno was arrested in April of 2022 on a charge of unlawfully carrying a weapon. Okay, so see if there's anything else that I need to. Okay, so the reason why she has an alias of Jeffrey Escalante is because on other, on the majority of the other articles that I found, there was this connection or this transgender connection to this whole thing. Is that the whole X and Y thing that we've been studying? You know, is it is it part of the whole transgender community push or to make them look bad? I don't know. Um, I have no idea. But there is something that it was hard for me to refuse, just like I just messed up before, right? When I said her last name, I said Marino, and it reminded me of Ace Ventura. Finkel and Einhorn. Einhorn is Finkel, right? Marino, like Dan Marino. And then I was like, wait, isn't that a movie about a football game? Or, you know, it was, kind of about a football game. But like the whole thing with Marino or Moreno or Einhorn and Finkel was a repressed football player that became transgender. And I was just thinking, like, there has to be some kind of connection to this. There has to be. And then I started thinking of the name Ace Ventura, AC, like Ace Ventura, right? Like the Antichrist, AC. I believe this is directly connected to the football game. And you have it with that movie Ace Ventura. Einhorn is Finkel, Finkel is Einhorn. And people can't figure out why she was, they can't figure out the whole transgender thing. There are some articles that say, no, there's no way in heck that she was a transgender. And then there's some articles that that claim it. Um, and then there's some articles wondering why the whole transgender thing was built up. It's probably because of her alias, right? Jeffrey Escalante, and it threw people off. But the fact is that there is a transgender theme to this, and there is a Marino theme to this, like Dan Marino. That might be a stretch, but if it was just one, yeah. But then there's other connections to it. It happened on the football game, right? Dan Marino was a football player. Marino was part of the Ace Ventura movie. Um, the transgender thing. That's already like four connections, but it still could be a stretch. So let's just break down the name Genesee, right? Genesee is a variation of the Gen. Almost sounds like Jinn, right? The Jinn were demons, biblically speaking, not really a fair lady, but let alone it even looks like Genesis, like a biblical connection. And most importantly, it has gene in it, like gene alteration. The X and the Y, the transhuman, or not the transhuman, but the you know, uh, transsexual thing. The gene, right? The X and the Y, or whatever. And in cinema, they use people like Gene, Gene Wilder to push the whole gene aspect of something, right? Or they'll wear a jean jacket, or Gene Wolverine and Gene to push the whole genetics aspect of things. And it means fair lady, but we also know that a Jinn is not a fair lady. Jinn is a demon. Yvonne is her middle name. Look at this. You or Archer. Well, what is an archer? What does an archer arch with? Bow and arrow. KC helmet. Native Americans are archers. Oh, I missed something on this too. Look at uh, Genesee. Oh, let me see. Genesee is a Native American name. The Seneca, the Cayuga, the Iroquois. I looked that one up earlier. The Mohawk. Okay, so there's your Native American connection, and that connects us back to the KC, right? All right, so Moreno means uh, Hispanic people know this. They call each other this sometimes, like one's darker than the other. Morenos. It means dark skinned. And what have we been studying about the dark skinned coded language? It means it's coded for copper, like the copper snake. Your copper connection. So you have your copper connected to your archer, connected to your gin, and even that's connected to your Native American. I'm not saying Native Americans are that, but your KC connection, right? Her alter ego, or her different alias, was Jeffrey, and Jeffrey means divine peace. That one threw me off, um, but I think there's a German connection to it. Um, Escalante was perfect because totally goes with her name. It means ladder, or referring to a terrace slope. In the church, it's one big terrace slope, right? And the archer was arching off the terrace slope. But let alone ladder, like Jacob's ladder. And we've talked about this on this channel before. about the spine being Jacob's ladder and how the serpent crawls up the spine, and or the corridor, the throat area, how it's the 300. Remember that movie? How they're blocking Babylon from coming in. Babylon was allegorical for the serpent trying to break in the corridor. The corridor is the lion's gate. It's the throat. It's the golden gate as well. It's the connection between heaven and earth, and they got to hold the corridor like the 300, not allowing the serpent to ascend the crown. And we find that in the stars as well. All right, so let's go to the Lakewood. Remember the 7 and 2 I was talking about? So we can see the 2 right here, right? The 2. And then when you turn this symbol upside down, you can clearly see the 7 right here. The 7 and 2, what does that mean? If you've been studying this channel, a 7, 9 is the 7, and the 7 is the 9. September, right? September is originally the 7th month. And I'm not going to get into all that. I've done videos on that before. But a 7 is a 9 and a 9 is a 7. So when you see like the 7-11 really means 9/11. And then circle K, same thing. It's alphanumerically for 9/11 as well. Circle and the K and you add it up. Done videos on it. And then you get the remember the Bill and Ted, like strange things were afoot at the Circle K. And then you had the Gemini Bill and Ted's, and the two telephone booths that represented the Twin Towers. But it all happened on 9/11 at the Circle K and the 7-11, the 72. 2 is 1 and 1, right? If you think that's a stretch. Let's see here. Okay, so the Lakewood Church, the area code for there is 77027. The address is 3700. Um, it's in the 9 Greenway Plaza. Let me go over some of the evidence they found. All right, so she also had a 7-year-old with her. Which, there's a lot of these 7 numbers. The evidence they found a book called All Remainders Are Neo-Nazis. So there's another German connection. And when cinema or the occult use Germans, it's code for germs, right? The disease. That's why the SS is 1919, alphanumerically, right? And if you don't believe that has a connection, she has a white mask that says Free Gaza Trump. And there's your president connection. You see, all these things are connected. It's not just random. All the things that we're suggesting over here, um, with the scores of um, the Super Bowl and the ritual of the Super Bowl and the arrival of who, you get all the symbolism, the same symbolism, just in a different way over here with this whole Lakewood thing. Um, and then I'm telling you, the whole Ace Ventura thing is a home run, but I know some people will be like, what the heck are you thinking? Ace Ventura, AC. There's always the AC in movies, every single movie. Laces out, son. Okay, so this happened in Houston. right? So if you have your Scottish surname Hughes Town, Scottish, Trump, Highlander connection. Okay, what is a hue? Right, we get the hue in Houston. It's a color or a shade. That might be your copper connection. I don't know. Just breaking it down. Like I said, this is a mild breakdown. I could have broke down everybody's name and put it all together and got a story out of it. But I'm just trying to simplify it the best I can. These things are complex to the beginner, but somebody, you know, I put plenty of tools for decoding videos last year. I try to sum them all up in my last video, and I put them all together into one, and I try to simplify them as best as I could. Once you study those tools for decoding, all these things would be easy, and you see it really easy, really clear. And it's a collaboration of all the truthers out there and Christians, um, all their findings, and as well as mine and the Holy Spirit. Um, and I believe they're spot on, they're accurate. And I know some are still fairly new, like the Revelation 12 sign symbol that's found in so many movies. But it's accurate and it's real. They use it, and they use it against us. All right, so let's see here. So the ritual connection, it's Apollo and his arrows ritual, Revelation 9 through 11 and Revelation 12. Hacking the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve controls all the organs, but the V is designed to target all the cranial nerves, not just the vagus nerve, all the cranial nerves. Okay? I used to believe it was only for the vagus nerve. That movie Game Over, that's all coded language to all the names and all the hotel door, all the numbers in the hotel rooms. That's all dates and times. Um, but the thing that got me in that movie, there's something called the Nintendo skin suit, right? And I believe that's exactly what the vagus nerve is suggesting. It's about, demonic possession, of course, but also having the ability to control somebody from the inside out. Okay? But I believe it's a lot more than that. I believe the V is not the vaca, but the V itself is completely designed to attack the cranial nerves, right? It's trying to take our crown from the inside out. However they designed it, or however the principalities that be designed it, they're attacking our inner tribes of Israel, our cranial nerves. Okay? Cranial nerve damage, right? That's exactly what it's doing. Um, and it's causing a lot of cranial nerve damage. That people are not talking about it. People are not talking about the mental illness that's connected to it. Um, the possible. Look at. Let me show you. Vagus nerve. Okay, so let me see if I have a picture of all the nerves. There we go. Okay, you have your olfactory. Remember when people were sick, were saying that they couldn't smell or taste anything anymore? These cranial nerves are all connected to that. Your optic nerve could be connected to Bell's palsy or even eye twitching. I know that I suffer from eye twitching all the time. It's crazy. And Christians are not exempt from this. I believe that all these mental illnesses and mental things are part of tribulation, man. I know these are some strong words to say, but I think they are. Um, you have tinnitus, ear ringing, like locusts. I know a lot of people, I've done studies on this, that there's a lot of tinnitus connections to COVID. Mental illness Memory. We've been talking about memory for the last year. We've completely confirmed it. Not just beat around the bush. We confirmed it and connected it on this channel to COVID and mask hypoxia. But they scrubbed all the mask hypoxia um, information out there. So I went to cerebral hypoxia. It's the same thing. It's lack of oxygen to the blood, to the brain, everything. Any kind of hypoxia is lack of oxygen. Accidents, heart attacks, strokes can deprive the brain of oxygen, even masks, leading to cerebral hypoxia. Hypoxia is a medical emergency. It can cause permanent brain injury. If the brain goes too long without oxygen, the brain death and coma can occur. Okay, I did a video last year, early last year, of I found articles on mask hypoxia. Those same articles you can't find anymore; they're gone. And it states that doctors and nurses were well aware of this long before COVID, and they knew to take off their masks every few minutes because of the vital side effects of cutting off oxygen to the brain. Irreversible brain damage and memory loss, and all these things were connected to mask hypoxia. And I know I wore that mask for like 2 years. And every time I wore it, every day, I felt lightheaded. I felt dizzy at times. I felt hot, nauseous. These things had, and then we breathed our own carbon monoxide, right? Um, who knows what that does to us? Long term effects. And I believe that all these mental illness effects from the V and the vodka, I think the vodka it's doubly bad, man. But I know that I suffer from some of these things myself, and I'm trying my best, to get through them or to overcome them. And I know a lot of people that are out there are suffering the same way. They're just not talking about it. This is the time that nobody's talking about this whole thing that we're fighting on the inside. And I believe that goes to the war of principalities, and that's connected to tribulation, whether it's inner tribulation or whatever. There's people out there that believe there's different variations of tribulation. I think it's some kind of tribulation, whether it's, I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to go down that road right now, but I know that it's something detrimental, and it's something that we should all be talking about instead of being quiet about these things and it being too late. Another thing that I'm going to talk about is it's just so weird that there's so much death nowadays. I know that lots of my family and friends that are only in their 50s and their 60s are dying all the time. All the time. Pre 4 years ago, never. Once in a great while, I'd have to attend a funeral, or definitely it wasn't a funeral for that somebody that was only 50 years old or 60 years old. Now it's everybody. Now it's somebody at least, like twice a month that's dying around me that I know that's only in their 50s and 60s. It's crazy. It's an incredible rate. And I think that people need to be talking about this stuff. People need to be pointing their fingers at the powers that be that allowed all this to happen. People need to be asking questions, and nobody's asking anything. It's this quiet war that we're going through with ourselves, and with our health, and with the powers that be, and the principalities, and the demonic stuff that's attached to all this stuff. Everyone's all real quiet about it. It's weird, man. It's weird. It needs to be talked about. And there's a couple other things that I also wanted to mention too that people have mentioned, um, but I see it from a different point of view, just a little bit. Like um, Usher, how like they're saying like Usher played in was as a visual representation or a subliminal representation of ushering the AC, right? I look at it as ushering in the AC and the vodka, right? Ludicrous reminds me of Spaceballs, right? Ludicrous speed. They're making fun of warp speed when you watch Spaceballs. And they also, I've seen on Casey's channel, Enter the Stars, where he was talking about lewd is connected to rabies as well. And there is like a rabies um, connection to the vodka, of course. Touched on that last year as well. Swift, right? Swift is another way of saying ludicrous. Ludicrous speed. Swift. Warp speed. Double warp speed. So you have Usher in the vodka and the warp speed. See, it's the exact same ritual, just said in a different way, right? And I also wanted to touch on the whole X thing, right? Uh, I know that's a big thing out there, the whole X, and there's so many layers to the X, of course, but I think it can be simplified. I think it's the X is just simply um, the divine feminine. The occult believe in the whole divine feminine thing, and the Y, right, is the male. The divine feminine relates to witchcraft, mysticism, new age, pharmakia, right? And then the Y is the male energy, and that's God. That's why they have the X encompassing the Y, right? The Bible states that a woman will encompass a man in the end times, right? And I think that was referring to the X and the Y thing. How this whole X generation will be ushered in. Why do you think every movie, the male superheroes are being replaced by the feminine, by the female? It's code. It's coded language. They're ushering in the feminine, the divine feminine. Um, the X over America, what does that mean? Is that connected to the pharmakia aspect of the X, and there'll be another vodka or another V released, or possibly? I know that there's a comet happening at the same time, and a comet means, it's usually a reference to, sickness or disease. And then all these celestial signs have some kind of judgment to them. They're not good. um, I've done videos on like wandering stars and shooting stars, and usually when you see a shooting star, it's being referenced to, even the occult know this if you pay attention in movies, that whenever a shooting star occurs, something bad happens next. That's what, or bad news comes. There's got to be a trial period, and then, you know the hero eventually overcomes. That's Just pay attention whenever you see a shooting star in movies. I think in real life it means pretty much the same thing. It's a message to us, and the same thing applies for a comet. A comet is a message to all of us. Something is coming. Something we have to, be prepared for, and it's doubly bad on an eclipse. You know, Native Americans know this. Ironically, right, with the whole Native American thing, the KC, they know this. A lot of Native American tribes, they won't even allow eclipse light on them. It's like forbidden, and it's considered a bad omen. They stay indoors. Is it judgment on the X, on the divine feminine? I don't know. Is it? Does it mean that there's a pharmakia aspect to it coming up? I don't know. Or is it all coincidence? I don't know. Could be. Um, I just thought these findings were kind of interesting, and I thought you would like them. Um, might help us out in our journey figuring things out. But if all this stuff scares you, I don't mean to scare you. It's all for the sake of truth, right? Um, Unfortunately, it takes a little bit of, of hardcore truth for us to seek God sometimes. This video is not for the believer, it's for the people that are teetering or the unbeliever, to see the hidden truths in this kind of stuff. If you're worried about the vodka or the V, or you've fallen victim to any of this, as we all have in some way, shape, or form, um, remember there is a cure, the real and only true cure. It's not the vodka, it's Jesus Christ. And if you haven't been saved, here are some salvation verses. Romans 10:9, that if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus Christ, and shalt believe in thine heart that God had raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. Okay? Um, if if you have any questions about salvation or anything like that, just leave them in the comments. I'll do a video, I'll help you through it, or try to answer your questions the best I can. I'm going to leave you with this clip of Blazing Saddles. My pop was watching this, and I walked in at this exact scene. I'd never really seen this movie. I think maybe as a child. It's something that I've heard this name before, Blazing Saddles. And I remember Gene Wilder being in this, right? Gene Wilder. And this video came about the exact same time that I was decoding Genesee and all that stuff. And I thought it was very interesting because I saw some of the symbolism we've been talking about. See, we have the staircase right here. Remember, if it's not the physical triangular shape of the Revelation 12 sign that usually you see it in movies, it's the other way of seeing it is the stairway down. Right? The stairway is referencing to the dragging coming down the stairs into the earth, being cast out of heaven. Right? And it also represents DNA. I did decodes on this before. And this particular stairway means the exact same thing. Okay, so you have your Eiffel Tower thing, that's your needle. You have your Y chromosome, and they are making an X. You figure this movie's probably like, what, 30, 40 years old? And the same symbolism is found then. This is kind of a long clip. I'll pause it every few minutes so I don't get a copyright, which I probably still will. I don't care. But so I can explain it to you. Some parts are just, just there's some vulgar language too. Um, but some parts don't even really matter. But I try to chop it down as best as I could. But I just want to show you the symbolism is found in every single movie that we've studied. So remember, you have your Y. That's not random. Then you have they are making an X over the Y. And then you have your needle right here. Okay? Immediately, remember after the Revelation 12 sign symbol that I showed you with the occult decoding, that there's always some kind of explosion or something connected to it immediately. And that's what you see right here. I'll give you some volume. Immediately. Now watch. You got your horseman right at the bottom of it. That's not random. That's completely encoded. Part's not really pertaining to anything. I just wanted to show you the whole clip is all connected instead of showing you segments like I'm cherry picking. I'm showing you the whole clip. It's like you have this X and Y war, right? Or this, or the symbolism of whatever this represents, followed by a war of some type. Is it the inner war that we're experiencing now? Or is it a physical war? But you definitely have the horseman at the bottom of the stairway, which you see in so many movies as well. These are the parts that really don't matter. I'm sorry, but like I said, uh, I wanted to keep it connected for you, and I'm purposely stopping too. So, and it's weird too. Like he called all the boys girls, and then you have the two guys swimming with each other. It's definitely some weird stuff. Definitely some chromosome connection there, right? X and Y. And the men are really feminine. Right here we have your Hitler connection, of course. Your germ. There's always a staircase in every movie, and the directors love getting those angles right by the staircase for some strange reason. So I was just like, it seems like there's some subliminals in here. I'm gonna keep on watching. And then this popped up. Remember, this is the Gene Wilder sidekick. I should have got his name, but you have a rider on a horse. You have a copper rider, and he happens to be a sheriff, which is allegory for a cop. The copper man on the horse, who happens to be a copper. And we've seen that ritual before, right? Um, the whole OJ ritual, because he was riding in the white Bronco, the rider on the white horse. And we actually even seen, you can Google this stuff, that there was a sheriff or another, I think it was a sheriff, um, another copper tone sheriff riding on the freeway on an actual horse. Okay, so the next clip is the Chinese theaters, right? And then you see the dragon. You can be okay, that's just coincidental, but watch it. It'll hit home. As you can see, these are connected, right? So you have like your Rev 12 sign, then you have your dragon being cast down to earth. I wonder how much she gave her. I wonder if it was like 7 and then the time said 11. I don't know. I should have looked into that a little bit more, but I'm sure there was something there. Boom. In the Chinese theater, you have your Vaka, the China virus. And you have your random cows in the Chinese theater. For to me, that's all I needed to see. You could call it crazy. You can call, oh, this guy has imagination. I have an imagination. Now look at this. This is not random. You have your vodka in the Chinese theater. Your old China virus. And then it ends with, I cut it off kind of soon, but right after this scene, you have your copper riding on the horse, and he shoots him dead, and blah blah blah. So you have it all connected there. You can say it's random, but I don't think so, man. I think they've been encoding this stuff subconsciously in us for a long time to program us for it. I think in a weird way, we actually even manifest it by subconsciously watching these things. And I'm at the point where I'm questioning even watching secular movies now. It's like, even though I discern them and I'm decoding them, but the power of this stuff, going into our mind and sleep state and dream state. And the power of the mind's crazy. Um, on a weird way, I think we manifest this stuff, or we make it happen a little bit faster. Why else would they program us with it? Why else would they utilize it like hypnotists? I think not just to accept it, but to go along with it. So you can say that this might be a scary video or a negative video, but man, without us calling people, the truthers out there calling this stuff out, man, we're completely asleep to it. And who knows that, which we do know, it may motivate us to go along with it, to vote for certain people, to take certain things that we shouldn't have taken. That's why these videos are important. And I'm sorry if I scared anybody. I didn't mean to. It's just I want the truth to be told, and it's there in the programming. Um, if you haven't been saved, get saved. Here are some salvation verses again. And I thank you for watching the video.